Welcome to Radically Rewired, the show where I fuse science and spirituality to give tangible tips to feel more confident, get more clarity, and live your most authentic and fulfilling life. I'm your host, Nicole Novoselsky, a former 9-to-5 desk job gal turned traveling entrepreneur, energy healer, and brain hacking yogi. This podcast is all about how to stop going through the motions and make the most of your human experience here on this earth. So let's learn how to get radically rewired. In today's episode, we're going to dive deep into my own personal journey. A journey of how I went from absolutely hating my body, my job, my life, to loving every aspect of myself as I travel the world full-time, building my own brain hacking brand. Feels like a full circle moment to help people through their darkest days into full acceptance of themselves and helping them propel to their most aligned goals. So how'd I go from being a self-berating perfectionist, crying on the bike ride back from an improv class, to the most free, confident, fulfilled version of myself who travels the world teaching how to rewire the pathways in our brains? Well, it is a good tale. So let's launch into it. 4 years ago now, I found myself in what many call a dark night of the soul. Glennon Doyle speaks so eloquently about this in her book, Carry On Warrior. Elizabeth Gilbert talks about this in Eat, Pray, Love, as well as Nicole LaPera, also known as the holistic psychologist. This dark night of the soul idea is not something new. Many of us go through it, and truthfully, if you're listening to this right now, you're probably also going through it to some extent. You're drawn to changing your brain for a reason. And you're waking up to the fact that the life you've been living isn't necessarily the life that you want to be living. It was a life that others wanted for you, society wanted for you, family wanted for you, and the environment you grew up shaped you. And you didn't necessarily get a say. Your brain got wired a certain way, and you're the one who has to live with it 24/7 now. And now you're waking up like, wait, hold on, what? How did I get here? I don't really want to be here. So what do I do now? I feel a little bit stuck. Does this sound like you? Because if so, I commend you for being here because this is where change happens. So for me, I grew up in a suburb outside of Chicago where it felt like everything was keeping up with the Joneses. Even though it wasn't a particularly small town, it felt like everyone and their moms and their brothers and their cousins and their dogs were talking at all times. What clothes you were wearing, what friend group you were in, how much money your family made, what classes you were taking, what your grades were, who was dating who, whose cousin this was twice removed. I felt this immense pressure to prove myself, that my worth was based on my accomplishments, how little I could make myself, how polite I could be. I didn't stray from the path because that was my ticket to validation, for love, for acceptance. If other people thought I was perfect, then maybe, just maybe, it might be true. And I remember picking myself apart all the time, looking in the mirror and just constantly judging. I had horrible body dysmorphia and I never liked what I saw. I desperately needed validation from others. But then when they would give it to me, I didn't believe them. Because no amount of compliments could satiate my hunger for being validated, for being told I was good enough. And when I was perfect, being perfect, because really is there such thing as perfect, and being popular amongst many different friend groups in junior high and high school, getting straight A's in some of the hardest classes, being MVP on not one, but 2 sports teams, and dating some of the most sought after guys in school. Yet, people still talked about me. I should have realized then that none of it matters, that you can fit perfectly into the box, but it still will never be enough. People will always find something to pick at, and I always found something to pick at. And at what point would it be enough? At what weight would I look at myself and think, wow, I can finally love myself? At what income level would I say, wow, I've finally made it? The answer is I always wanted more. Nothing was ever enough. I was in the cycle of beating myself up to prove to my brain that I was right, that I'd never be good enough. And this lasted for many, 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 many years, and the job that I had outside of college didn't help. You see, I feel like my whole life, we were taught to always look forward to the next thing. And maybe you resonate with this because when we were learning to read in first grade, it was because we would read chapter books in second grade. And when we were learning multiplication in third grade, it was because we'd be doing pre-algebra in fourth grade. And then high school was to prepare us for college, and college was to prepare us for the real world. And so after college, I got a corporate job in Chicago, which was everything I had ever dreamed of. I lived in my own apartment with my best friends downtown, in the city with a big girl job and big girl money, and this was it, or supposed to be it. This was supposed to be the pinnacle of everything that I worked so hard for, yet I was miserable. I was bored to tears in my job, yet people-pleasing, perfectionist, hardworking me tried to take on tons of work to show that I was valuable. And within 11 months, I got an 18% raise, which was quite unheard of at that company. And I was doing events for trade shows and conferences and just hated sitting at my desk. I remember I would call vendors, and instead of talking about business, I wanted to hear about their lives. I wanted to hear about their thoughts and what was really going on behind the scenes. I hated the professional masks that we all had to wear. I wanted to be goofy, fun, free-spirited, but instead I had to show up to the office with my hair dry, my heels on, and a smile on my face, pretending that I actually gave a shit about these events that I was completely removed from. Does this sound like you? Can you resonate? Are you working a job that you don't actually feel super aligned with? Because clearly, I feel for you. After work, I'd rush to the gym so I could judge my body more ultimately, and then I'd try to cook some kind of dinner. But I was so stressed and anxious that I suffered from horrible IBS. So after everything I ate, my stomach was just in a huge flare-up, which played on my confidence, my body image, and my moods. It was a vicious cycle. It got to the point where I was literally crying every single day because I felt trapped in my job with this weird pressure to do well and pretend to enjoy being put in the professional box of someone that I wasn't. And at this point, I would say like a good 95% of my thoughts were negative. I'd go on competitions with myself of how mean I could be and send myself into a crying fit. And I was dating a ton, surprisingly, to the point where I started a small dating blog that I sent out emails to my friends every Sunday night. But dating was mostly me just trying to get validation from men. That I was cool, smart, successful, beautiful. It was like a weird game. All of my emotions were all over the place. And so when I deemed someone perfect, for me, it would all fall apart because I didn't have the techniques to manage my emotions or communicate effectively. So I was just a crumpled up pile of anxiety and stress with a severe anxious attachment. Does this sound like you? Because maybe you can also relate. I feel like I'm telling my story because I really want you to understand where I'm coming from so that you can understand where I am now. And if this does sound like you, I want you to know that there's so many changes that you don't have to be this way forever, because I thought that I had to be this way forever. And you don't have to be, I promise. So sometimes when we're sad and miserable, we get weirdly addicted to being sad and miserable, even though we don't want to be. I thought I was going to be miserable forever, and the sadness and the misery weirdly became my comfort zone. And even though I hated it, it was really hard to get out of it because that was what the norm was. So now I always say that in order to get out of the slump, you need to do something to jolt you awake. I love using Newton's law for this. We're going back to the physics, back to the basics. Who knew that we'd be talking physics here? But an object in motion stays in motion unless acted upon by another force. So AKA, you will stay in your slump until something happens where you no longer can take it anymore. Meaning, dun 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 dun, I feel like I could put in my own audio effects. The dark night of the soul. And for me, my dark night of the soul, strangely, was an improv class. Soulful saga time. I've always had an affinity toward improv theater and script writing. I don't know if you can tell just by my voice and the singing that I love singing, I love dancing, I love improv, I love theater, I love all of the things. I'm a multi-passionate gal. So in an effort to balance out the hatred of my job, I signed up for an improv class. And Chicago's pretty well known for improv, so I was super excited. And I loved it. But my good old brain loved comparing me to everyone else. Have you ever signed up for something and you're in the class and you see all these people doing really, really well? I don't know, whether it's cooking or baking or sewing or knitting or crocheting or dancing or singing, whatever the class is, and you're just looking around and being like, wow, everyone is so good. And then you start to compare yourself, or maybe you go on a social media binge and you're just comparing your life to other people. The comparison game, you can never win. You never win. And I learned this the hard way. Because after every improv skit, I would judge myself on how well I did. I get it, self-improvement, right? We want to be better than we were the day before. And it's fine to want to be better, but how I was doing it was completely disparaging. Why? Because it wasn't under the context of, oh, hey, here's how you can get better. How exciting. Oh my gosh, there's room for improvement. We're just gonna have fun and enjoy the journey along the way. No, that was not how it went. It was very disheartening, almost like I was my own bully. Like, oh my God, you're not funny at all. You're horrible at this. You're never going to be good enough. Oh my goodness, what's everyone thinking? You need to get off the stage ASAP. Yeah, not so fun, hey? And our minds can be our own biggest bully. Where are you thinking negative thoughts in your life? Are you thinking them at work? Are you thinking them at the gym? Are you thinking them 24/7? Because if you are, that is going to impact the quality of your life, aka why we are here talking about brain hacking, because we want to be on our own sides, not against us, making ourselves miserable. And so let's go back to improv for a hot min. On one day, I had to miss an improv class. And so part of the deal was that if you miss a class, you can do a makeup class at another time with a completely different group of people. So I vividly remember going to that makeup class and I didn't know anyone. So you'd think I wouldn't give a shit about what these people thought of me. But no, for some reason, the comparison mode was tripled because I wanted these people to think, oh my gosh, Nicole is the freaking best at improv. And so after every word out of my mouth, I was judging myself and beating myself down. Looking back, I wasn't even that bad. I actually was saying some pretty funny stuff, but my mind wouldn't believe it. Have you ever been complimented, but you couldn't accept the compliment because deep down you wouldn't allow yourself to believe it? No matter how funny someone told me I was determined not to believe it. So, anywho, after the class, I remember riding one of the city bikes home in the dark, in the rain, crying my eyes out because I refused to take an Uber. I don't know why. It was like this cinematic moment. So why was I crying my eyes out? Because I'd beaten myself down so much that I felt worthless, not good enough for anyone or anything, and completely obliterated my own confidence. And I got home and I cried on the bathroom floor. Like a merciless cry, like a dramatic rom-com main character who just gets broken up with and has a soul-wrenching cry kind of cry. And it was like I was crying for all the times I tried to hold it together, for all the times that I didn't feel good enough. All from an improv class, hey? I mean, from me crying, I feel like I would have been a good actress, right? I feel like I would have been pretty good at improv. You would have thought, right? It was from this moment that I swore to myself that I couldn't go on like this. So what did I do? I made an action plan. And so I swore that I could not stay in my corporate job anymore. I'd always been so interested in traveling the world. I'd studied abroad in Seville, Spain, and absolutely loved it. And so I said, you know what? Why don't I go teach English in Thailand? After I did work, I would go study and got my teaching English as a second language certification. And I had seen friends do this before and absolutely love it, so I wanted to try it out too. So I planned all of this stuff for Thailand, and I was even learning Thai in the quiet room at my corporate job when I didn't have a lot of work going on. I was like, okay, I'm gonna go to Thailand, I'm gonna teach English, and you know what? I'm gonna go get my yoga certification in Bali before I go to Thailand, because why not? I've always wanted to get my yoga certification and really go in depth. And this is the time to do it. If I'm gonna quit my job and travel the world, I might as well make a pit stop in Bali. What unraveled for me was absolute beauty and magic. So I did my yoga certification in Bali, Indonesia. And on the last day of the training was when the world shut down in 2020. The pandemic hit, COVID happened, and everyone started freaking out. But I was like, oh, I'm good. I'm going to Thailand. Everything's fine. I'll make it there. No worries. And so I didn't panic and I just ended up staying in Bali because, of course, all of the classrooms shut down and I had a choice. I was like, well, I could stay in Bali and try and figure it out, or I can go home to Chicago where I'm now unemployed because I quit my job. I gave up my apartment, so I'd have to go live with my parents. And I don't really want to do that. I'm in paradise. I'm going to stay here. And I ended up finding this Airbnb with this woman who was a therapist from the UK, and she'd been living in Bali for 10 years. And I ended up locking down with her for 9 months, where we had deep conversations about life and my past and unraveling all of the stories and conditioning that had been put on me. And I dove into the world of energy healing. I studied under different Balinese priests, doing different meditations with them. I learned from different spiritual mentors. I studied lots and lots of science because I love the brain. I am such a science geek and nerd. I love learning about how the brain works, but I also love the spirituality aspect of it because I feel like that was what was missing from my life of really truly being fulfilled. So now I love putting the two together because I watched my brain do a complete 180. I started to love my body. I loved my personality. I was seeing my own magic, which was so crazy for the first time in my life. Thoughts that I had before weren't even accessible to my brain anymore. It was like I could think the thought, but there was no emotion attached to it. And so that's why I'm so passionate about this work, because I know that you can change your brain. You can rewire your brain through your own neural networks. So I want to give you a neuro nugget. Dun, 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 our next segment called Neuro Nugget. Some of my friends tell me, they're like, you're like the real life Jess Day because I sing everything. So all my New Girl fans out there, I see you, and I'm bringing a little bit of Jess Day here. So our brains can change due to neuroplasticity. What is neuroplasticity? It's basically how our brains are malleable in the sense that you can learn new things every day. You aren't going to stay the same from when you're born to when you die. Things shift, things change. I want you to know that you don't have to be stuck. You can fully change your mindset, which is going to change your circumstances. Why? Because your thoughts play a role on your actions, and then your actions turn into behaviors, which turn into habits, which then spiritually start to magnetize different energy, different things into your life. And that can be a whole other episode, but just know that your brain can change. Where you are now does not have to be where you are in a year. And that's why in the beginning, I said this is such a great place to be, because it's so exciting that you're taking the first step to actually change your brain. And by listening to this, you're building new neural pathways. I'm infusing this with positive energy, and I hope that you can feel it. And that energy is going to shift and change your neural networks, because at any given time, you're either strengthening a neural network or creating a new one. So you can strengthen old thought patterns that aren't serving you, or you can learn new science and new things about spirituality or a new skill and have new thoughts, and that's creating these new neural networks. So my goal in this podcast is to help you create and strengthen these positive neural networks that really truly align in your life so that you feel fulfilled, you feel joyous, you feel at peace, and you feel so freaking excited about your life. That is the goal here. And so let's get into our brain hack of the day. How do you actually do this? So if you want to create a new neural pathway today, this is what you're gonna do. You have to do something new, of course. If you want a new pathway, you gotta do something new. You already started by listening to this podcast. So now I'm gonna give you a little bit of homework. Do something new. Take a new route to work. Cook something different. Look up a new recipe. Learn something different. Learn a word in a different language. Or think a new thought. Maybe you've been struggling financially and you're like, ugh, I can never make enough money. What would it feel like to think, you know what, actually, I could make enough money? Or if you think that you're not good enough, pretty enough, skinny enough, what if you were to think, you know what, actually, I accept myself the way that I am? How does that feel in your body? Watch where the brain goes. Do you believe it? Do you not? How can you infuse kinder thoughts as you do this new activity? Are you hard on yourself like I was in the improv class? Or are you your own biggest cheerleader? How can you be your own biggest cheerleader a little bit more? Allowing yourself to fully take on this new thing and not having to be good at it. Enjoying the journey as you go, because you're creating these new neural pathways and you've never made them before. So giving yourself some grace, giving yourself some love, and laughing it off, letting it be funny. I wish I would have laughed it off in improv of like, oh my gosh, that wasn't funny, but next time I'm gonna be funnier, right? And that is okay. Really, truly trust the process, enjoy the progress you're making, and have fun on this little roller coaster that we call life. If you're super curious to dig deeper into rewiring your brain to chase after your biggest dreams and goals, I've got such a treat for you. I have a mini course called Propel to Productivity and Launch to Your Most Aligned Goals. And guess what? It's totally free for all of my listeners, as a big thank you for popping on and joining me. So the link is in the description for all of you to get started. It's super thorough, and I will take you through all of the reasons why you might be procrastinating towards your goals, and I give you this unique framework to take the first step. So you're going to take action by doing this free mini course. So all you gotta do is click the link in the description to get started. All for free. I got you covered. No worries. I am so excited to help you on your journey to the life you've been dreaming of, because it is time. It is time to finally start living the life that you really want instead of feeling stuck. And I hope this gives you a little bit of insight and it shows you my story, and I'm exhibit A that you totally can do it. If I can do it, you can do it too, and I'm here to support you all along the way. Fulfillment Fast Track. Wow, we've covered a lot. Let's sum up all the key takeaways that you can bring with you in your life today. First point, dark night of the soul as a springboard. What do I mean by this? The dark night of the soul isn't a dead end. It's not like, oh my goodness, I just cried my heart out and I'm gonna be miserable forever and nothing's gonna change. Actually, it's super exciting because you can use this dark night of the soul as a springboard for transformation. You can use this energy of, wow, I don't want my life to be like this, to actually start to take new action. Like we said, doing something new. So hopefully that the dark night of the soul tells you that your comfort zone is not comfortable anymore. You've had enough, so you're going to take a new action. Next is embracing the flow of your journey. So you can craft a tentative plan, but leave room for the unexpected magic of life. I mean, I thought I was literally gonna be a teacher in Thailand. I had a whole 5-year plan. I was gonna teach in Thailand for a year, and then teach in South Korea for a year, and then come home and move to Denver. I don't know why. I decided that was it. I just figured that was the plan and that Denver would make me happy. But here I am, literally recording live in Guatemala, teaching yoga in a beautiful studio and having brain hacking clients. I did not know that this was going to be my life. So leave room for the unexpected magic and embrace the spontaneity and allow your path to unfold organically. Next is neuroplasticity in action. Your brain is so capable of change. So when you take action, know that you are changing the brain. You're creating new neural pathways. Remember, you're either strengthening neural pathways or you're creating new ones. So think a new thought, take a new step, do a new route to work, eat something new, whatever it is. Now, after listening to this, I want you to take an action step that's new. Maybe you dance around, maybe you sing, something that's new right after listening to this. I hope that inspires you, and I hope you can let me know what you actually did. I would love, 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 love to hear from you. And then lastly, feel free to join my free mini course, Propelling to Productivity. We've got a great community here, and so I'd love to gift this to you so that you can start taking the first action step towards your goal. The link is in the description. Thank you so much for joining me today on my first ever episode of Radically Rewired. I've got so much to say, and I'm so excited that I finally took the first step to start this podcast, and I'm even more excited that you're here listening with me. And I'm going to give you tangible action steps to get to your goals, and I'm going to talk about the challenges and the nitty-gritty of all of the things I went through, because it was not a smooth sailing journey. And that's why I want to give you all of the insight that I've learned over the years on my own journey to help you on yours every step of the way. If you're as passionate about rewiring your brain and letting your soul shine as I am, hit that subscribe button and be the first to know when I drop my next wisdom-filled episode. So this episode was made possible by the generous support of my sponsor, Amplify Your Voice. And for more detailed episode notes and all the resources mentioned today, head on over to the description for all of the goodies, and you can explore the depths of this episode. Remember, each episode of Radically Rewired is a step towards unlocking your truest potential. Let's continue on this transformative journey together, my friends. Until next time, keep rewiring, keep thriving, and keep shining. Lots and lots and lots and lots and lots of love. Bye.